All right. So today we're going to talk about this big topic. So I woke up to a couple different comedian friends of mine basically getting in touch and letting me know that people were really upset about something that I tweeted earlier today. Now, before I get into all that, I would just like to say like, comment, and subscribe. We're getting close to that million. Okay, that being said, look at this complex article. Comedian sparks outrage by joking about ex's death. So for those who missed it yesterday, there's a Twitter account, twitter.com/standup, and they posted a short clip from this comedian, Dina Hashem's special that she has coming out on Comedy Central. I'm not sure exactly what the terminology is, but she's got some kind of comedy special coming out. And one of her jokes was basically, and I'm sure that the text of the joke is in here. Yeah, okay, let's just read this. Is anyone still mourning XXXtentacion? He's a rapper who was murdered. He's dead now. He was shot. He was on his way to buy a car with $50,000 in cash, and somebody shot him and took the money, which is very tragic. But I also think it would be a very good Venmo commercial. That's the first thing I thought when I heard that. Like, I don't have Venmo. I should get Venmo. So that's the joke that has everybody infuriated on the internet. Now, there's a couple of different ways to look at this, and it seems like the internet is split on this one into comedians and non-comedians. Hip-hop community specifically. The hip-hop community seems largely infuriated by this. We've seen a lot of the biggest rappers in the field coming out to say stuff about this because they were so offended. All we have to do is scroll down here a little bit. You can see Ski Mask Slump God quote tweeted it and wrote, "Look at this clown." I saw that Joyner Lucas was wilding out on her. Juice WRLD on his story, I just noticed, was saying something about her looking like spilled milk or something like that. Myself, personally, I have now deleted the tweet, and I'm going to explain why, but I did have a tweet where I basically said that this chick deserves whatever she's got coming to her. And I guess the way that I can justify what I was thinking when I said that, and I agree, is a little irrational. It was just came out because I was just so offended when I saw this. I guess the way that I would explain that and what was going on in my head is that if you think that it's funny or okay to joke around about a young kid, a 20-year-old kid, who just got gunned down in the street in his hometown, then how could we ever be supposed to feel bad when something happens to you? Like if somebody showed up and shot you in the face, how are we supposed to actually feel any real sympathy when you've made it already perfectly clear that you think it's funny when that happened to X? Now, the argument, of course, is going to be a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, X was a terrible person. He was a woman beater. He's an abuser, blah, blah, blah. Myself, I don't really buy into most of those arguments, so that doesn't really go too far with me. And I'm sure a lot of people would probably argue that Dina here is an angel and that she would never hurt a fly. So that's how they're going to get away with saying that this is a different situation. Myself personally, I don't really think it matters. I don't really think it matters what X has done in his life. I don't buy into a lot of the stuff that people say that he did, and I know a lot more about it than pretty much everybody who speaks about it publicly on the internet, to the point where I'm not going to come out and say everything that I know. But the reason why I did delete that tweet is because apparently, allegedly, I heard from some sources that I know in the comedy world that she's currently like, you know, there's harassment and then there's like real harassment. Like I heard that people were showing up at her house. I heard something about, you know, her parents getting doxxed, all kinds of crazy stuff like this. Now I'd like to make it perfectly clear that I 100% disavow that, and that is not anything that I would suggest anybody involved in this ever do. You want to leave a mean Instagram comment, fine. I get that. If we were to actually head on over to her Instagram, where she has now posted multiple apologies, she closed it on this one. This one only has 1,800 likes and no comments, but this one has almost 50,000 comments. So, oh yeah, and this one, okay, so she only has one apology posted now. Yesterday she had a couple of different apologies posted. But anyway, what I'm saying is, don't harass her. Leave her the hell alone. That being said, I just don't get the logic that would make anyone think that this was a safe topic to joke around about. Now, what kept going through my head was, what would the reaction to this be if her joke had been the same exact joke, but about Eric Garner, or about any of the seemingly countless young black kids that have been murdered by cops or murdered by, you know, rival gang members or serial killers or whatever. Anyone, you know, talk about, racialized violence in any situation, any of the stuff that's occurred with protests, any of the kind of, sort of white supremacist inspired violence that we've seen against people over the past couple of years. How would this joke play if she had been making the joke about one of them? Because I feel like same logic needs to be used in this situation. That X, regardless of the stuff that he was accused of, you should extend the same courtesy to him. To me, I just feel like the young kid who was beloved by millions of people who got murdered in the street for no reason deserves the kid gloves, at least for a period of time. And I feel like this isn't just me saying this because I'm friends with him, because he was a very close person to me, because I care about him so much, because I was crushed when he got killed. I don't think it's just that, because I'm trying to picture what this situation would be like if Taylor Swift got gunned down in the street. I'm trying to picture what the reaction would be if some comedian had got on stage and Taylor Swift, just for an example, obviously I wish no ill will upon her, but if she had been murdered in the street, how long people would be expected to wait to make some jokes about it. That's what I'm talking about. And I don't think it would be very well accepted, I'm going to be honest with you. And I know that comedy is supposed to be this place where you can joke around about anything, and if you really look at this joke, you could kind of look at this joke, like, I was with Tony Hinchcliffe yesterday, and he admitted, he said, I know you guys are friends with him, but you got to admit, it's not a bad joke. It's kind of funny. And I'm like, I get where you're coming from, Tony, because I get that. Because just earlier in that conversation that we had on camera that's not out yet, he had been saying that when he goes to think of a joke, he sits down and he thinks about, a setup or some conversation he's having, some kind of interaction, and then he tends to go, well, what's the most offensive version of this, or what's the most offensive commentary I could have on that, and that sort of guides him in the right direction. And so, her joke here, she might have themed it around something super topical, something that was really big news, but the joke is less about X and more about, maybe you shouldn't be carrying $50,000 in cash, which I'm sure X and everybody who loves him would kind of agree with that. That being said, I just don't think that there's any reason that she should have thought that this joke would play well. And I'm very understanding about the fact that in comedy, I appreciate comedy for what it is, because, when I go see Andrew Schultz or Tony Hinchcliffe or whatever, I see them making all kinds of jokes that would not be accepted by any other place in society. And I appreciate that. I got absolutely nothing against the trans community, the gay community, but I've heard those two guys I just named say stuff on stage about those communities that is so shocking that I was just almost just dumbfounded that this was still like allowed in our society, because I'm just so used to people really, really having the kid gloves on when it comes to topics like that. I feel like this situation specifically with a young person of color getting murdered in the streets, I just have a hard time understanding how anybody could have possibly thought that this joke would play well. Now, of course, like the hardcore comedy fans who are used to this sort of stuff, who are used to the overall societal norm in which everything can be joked about in the realm of comedy, that they're not going to be troubled by this. But it would seem as if everybody else who's on the side of compassion for this kid who got murdered would look at this situation and say, this is inappropriate. I don't understand how the hell you could think that this is funny. And that's very much the situation that I was in. My opinion was, how could you possibly think that this was funny or that this was a safe thing to make a joke about? We can, I guess, take a second to look at her apology here. And this is, I believe, her second apology, because there was another one that was posted earlier. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone's feelings. That's never what I want. I'm a comic, and I use jokes to try and make dark topics less painful, but I realize not everyone feels that way, and I don't want anyone to feel badly. It was taken down, and it won't air on TV. Now, okay, Corinne Fisher, she does the Guys We Effed podcast. She's been on my show before. She's like good friends with my girlfriend. She posted this. This is just like an example. And her whole timeline, if you want to see comedians getting offended by this, her whole timeline is a very good place to look, because she's been retweeting like pretty much everybody who's pissed off about this. So this is just sort of to contextualize what the comedian side of this argument is like. Every single comic needs to be speaking out publicly, defending our peer journalists. This is when we need you. We have created a culture where a comedian is getting serious death threats because of a joke. At stand-up, at Comedy Central, hire security for her now, protect your comics. Now, when she says we have created a culture where a comedian is getting serious death threats because of a joke, I'm not sure what culture she's necessarily regarding here. It just doesn't really like add up to me. People are offended because she made a joke about a young black kid getting killed in the streets, and I'm sorry, but regardless of the rules of comedy, I just think it's kind of a lot to expect to think that people at large were going to just be able to sort of peer into that statement and not get offended. It just seems a little bit wacky to me to think that that's the kind of thing that would be able to be put on such a large platform. And I mean, like, she didn't just make that joke in a room to 50 people. Like, that's the context of most comedy. She said it on a special that was going to air on TV, and then the @stand-up account, which I'm assuming is owned by Comedy Central, they took it upon themselves to take that one joke and put it into this one little clip and put it on Twitter, realizing that was going to get shared all over the world and that people were going to freak out about it. So they knew exactly what they were getting into. Let's be real. They knew that this was going to happen. And now I guess everybody's all pissed off because Comedy Central took it down. They're taking that as people not siding with the comedian in this. I think that in this case, don't joke around about X dying. I guess that's just where I'm coming from. And don't harass the girl, the comedian, because I feel like she didn't really know what she was getting into either. But I mean, that's just my perspective on it. And I'm sure that if you look at the comments on this, you're going to see that split emerging real quick, where to the rap fans, it's going to be basically unthinkable that this joke could have ever been thought to be appropriate. And then again, you're going to have all the comedy fans who are basically going to be looking at this and thinking that it's unthinkable that a comedian could ever be treated like that. I have a couple other tweets pulled up about this topic from the comedy world. This is Jessica Kirsten, who I do not know. Any comedian that goes after another comedian for a joke they told is a complete piece of shit. We need to stick together right now. We need to not be silenced. Shame on him. This is in reference to... it's reference to this guy, James Davis, who's a comedian. I'm not sure his initial tweet was, but this one says, "Let me just say this for the first and last time. I love and miss Nipsey Hussle, and I will rep his name forever. The marathon continues. He has my highest respect, and if I mention him in a parody song, film, or TV show, it's an honor to him only, so miss me with that disrespect shit in my comments." Whatever. This is because Corin is actually calling him out too. You incited death threats against one of our own, James Davis, and now you've gone quiet. You are not a comedian. You are a traitor. You are not the god of comedy able to cherry pick who and what can be the butt of a joke. This is inexcusable. I mean, once you remove that sort of veneer of comedy from this, it's hard to parse this logic. You are like, remove comedy from the second sentence in her tweet here. You are not the god able to cherry pick who and what can be the butt of a joke. This is inexcusable. I'm sorry, but that is the basis of our entire culture now. You can't read the news. You can't turn on the TV without seeing tons and tons of people basically exercising their free right to judge people's sense of humor. This is not even slightly out of the ordinary. This is constant in our culture. And I just don't think that the guise of comedy is going to be enough in this situation to really make up for the fact that a lot of people are offended by somebody making a joke about a young kid who got killed in the streets. Now, I'm open to other people's opinions. I understand the perspective. I have friends who thought the joke was funny. You know, multiple people I've met. I consider Corin a friend, and I hope that this isn't the end of our relationship just because she has taken issue with what I said. But for the record, leave the comedian girl alone. Violence is not the answer. Death threats and all that shit, not the answer. But that being said, I'm very interested to hear what you guys got to say. So drop some comments down below. RIP X. Appreciate y'all.